In December 2011, Farming Smarter held its annual conference and trade show at the Lethbridge Lodge Hotel, bringing together over 250 agricultural professionals and over 20 speakers. The conference served to educate members of the farming community on growing trends, opportunities, and issues facing today's agricultural industry. We now take you to the Farming Smarter conference to view the presentation of our speakers.
Thank you. Say, what is the best way to start now? You might as well start with a joke, right? But, you know, is there any wheat board lovers down here? Lots of them, I suppose. Yes. Maybe I should walk around down here. Is it better here or better there? Better down there? Don't send it straight to the wheat board, okay? You know, there was, how did you get started? You know, God gave me a great idea, and I did something with it. That's the only difference I did. God gave me the idea. Most people, they go to the toilet and they flush it, and there went the idea. And then they say later on, 20 years later, they say, my God, you know, I thought about that. I thought about that. But, you know, you didn't do a damn thing with it. Then God gave it to the next guy, and he just made it. How did it go? You know, I got tangled with the Canadian Wheat Board, and you all know that. And, of course, we had a smaller farm. We had a half section. And how did you get a half section? Can you turn that down a little bit, please? Or am I too close to it? Okay, is it better? Okay, and you know, first I went to Ontario, and I landed in Western Canada. We went with 26 young guys from Holland. And of course in Holland they wanted to get rid of these people, and especially like me. And the government of Holland, they paid for our trip. Isn't that something? And but that's fine. And then my dad was going to pay, but I didn't want him to pay because I thought he was kind of cheap. So I said, no, you don't have to pay, the government pays. And he didn't like that, but you know, it all transpired. And from the 26 guys, 23 of them stayed in the east, and 3 of us went to the west. Boy, this is the nuisance, this thing. Is this better? No? Is it better? Okay, then of course, where do you land? And I landed by Tony Bow in Bow Island. And we were finished seeding already in Holland, and I got here the 15th, the 20th of May. We left of April. And all of a sudden there was still snow in the ditches. I said, my God, what am I doing here? And but you know, we were all finished in Holland. And then of course, Tony Bow wrote me a letter, and he says, when it rains down here, you got a day off. And I said to Dad, I'm going to go to heaven. And because in Holland it rains every other day. But he says if they write that, he said there's probably a reason they write that. Dus when I was by Tony Bow, I asked him in early July, is it ever going to rain down here? We didn't get too many days off. Okay. And then of course, you know, then you go and first you start as a young farmer, and he had sugar beets, and he had some flax, and he had some wheat. And then you started, and of course the farmers, they paid $1 an hour, and all of a sudden the oil industry, they paid $4.50. Guess where Tom went? He went down there. Then I met a girl in Ontario, her name was Emmy. And she lived in Holland 6 miles from me, but I knew of her family, but I didn't know her. And but she met her in Ontario, and then I wanted to start something in Ontario. Dus she didn't want to go to the west. And I said, I don't know if we can pull this thing off, but let's try it. Dus I said to the farmer, he wanted to sell a farm, and I didn't want pigs. I didn't like pigs. And dus I said, forget about that stuff. And I said, now we're going to start, and went to the farmer, and he wanted $2,000 an acre. I said, are you willing to leave some money in the farm? He says, no problem. How much money you got? I said, not too much. But I says, tomorrow we're going to change that. We're going to go to the bank. Dus we went to the Bank of Montreal, and he says, what do you got? I said, nothing. That's what you can borrow. Nothing. Oh. No, then you're done. Dus I said to Emmy, I can't go farm here. If I really want to go farm, we got to go to the west. And then we went to the west, and you know, down here we bought a farm for $125,000 for a half section, and we financed 95% of it. Isn't that amazing? Peter Lahi, he had an amazing vision, and he wanted to have the young farmers get started, and he said, this is the way to do it. And of course I got into trouble with ADC. You guys all heard of ADC. Alberta Development Corporation, and they develop frustration in a very good manner, especially when you can't get the money. And all of a sudden, this fellow, he didn't want to send in the application. And I said, Jim, you have to send the application. He said, no, you pay too much, the house is too good. I says, Jim, that's why I bought the farm, because the house is good. He said, no, I can't do it. So I phoned the Premier, and I said, Mr. Premier, I have a little bit of a problem. He doesn't want to send in the application. How can you guys say yes or no? He said, Tom, he has to. I said, Mr. Premier, you don't quite get it right. He is not going to send it in. He said, Tom, I told you, he has to send it in. I said, Mr. Premier, you just didn't quite listen to me. I says, he's not going to send it in. How can you say yes or no? He said, let's say it this way. I'll make sure he sends it in. I said, why didn't you tell me that 5 minutes ago? Then it would have been done. Okay, and then a week later, we got approval, we bought the farm. And everybody came into, that was good. Now, we farmed for a while, and we had sugar beets, and we had flax and wheat. And then all of a sudden, I delivered all my flax, and then I changed it over to the wheat. And then all of a sudden, the Christmas lights went on in Winnipeg by the Canadian Wheat Board, because they found the biggest criminal in Western Canada, and his name was Tom Droog. He overstepped his boundaries, there was too much flax to deliver, blah, 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 blah. And of course, then you gotta tangle that. We tangled that for a while, and then I said to Emmy, there's gotta be a better way of doing this. And I says, let's go and sell a crop, make sure that we can grow a crop and sell it. So I went down to the United States for 10 days, and I came back, and there was either corn or sunflowers. And I says, corn, 50% goes to the feed, 50% goes to the distillers. And I says, with the distillers, I love that distilled stuff, but you still got to deal with the government. I says, preferably not. This, I said, sunflowers was wide open. There we started. We went to the bank. That is quite a story, but I'll make it short. We went to the bank and we said, we're gonna need some money to build a plant. And at first I want to make a Mickey Mouse setup, like a tank and a screener and a little bin and a bagger, and I says, I got it made. Because why did they go, all of a sudden I grew sunflower seeds, and a little old lady from Cochrane, she phoned me and she said, do you have some bird seed? I said, ma'am, we shoot the birds. She says, don't you shoot the birds? I said, yeah, we do. But I says, what do you pay for birdseed? She says, 38 cents a pound. Little light went on, because we contracted them at U of A for 10 cents. I said, my God, 10 cents? 38 cents? Even for a Dutchman, that's not bad. Dus I said, we'll tangle it. Then all of a sudden, we were going to have something set up for around 150,000. All of a sudden, Dr. O'Donoghue, he was the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, got a hold of me, and he said, Tom, you have an awesome idea. We need more diversification in this province. You have an awesome idea, but you got to build a little bigger. I should have hung up right away, but I didn't. I just kept on. I said, that is a good idea. So I went to the bank and I says, what about it? He says, that was in the early 80s. You know what happened in the early 80s. We all of a sudden had the idea, and L Seeds from Seed Grain System. And guys, if you ever want to build a plant, phone L Seeds. It is not engineered, but it runs. And that is the main thing. Because there might be not engineers out there. He is absolutely awesome to make it work. We had engineering drawings from the other people, because the minute you borrow money from ABC, then you have to have engineering drawings. But of course I don't. But I make my own engineering drawings. But L Seeds from Seed Grain System, he did an absolute amazing job. And then all of a sudden we start building, and he said, the banker, he said to me, he says, don't go over 500,000. Now, I don't know what that means to you and I, but to me it meant that we got approval. But not quite to him, I guess. Then all of a sudden I said, my funny gut feeling, we were 2 months into the building, and all of a sudden I had a funny gut feeling that something wasn't quite right. And I listened to my gut quite easily, quite nicely, and quite often. Because that is when the great creator is talking to you. So you better listen to that. And I said to Emmy, there is something wrong. She says, what? I said, I don't know. There is something wrong. And Monday morning I went to the banker and I said, sir, in 2 weeks I need 250,000. He says, Tom, good. He says, I'm going to tell the head office. I said, what? You haven't told the head office that we're building this plant? I says, that's my gut feeling. I says, we're bloody well toast. But no, he didn't think so. But of course, 2 days later, the people from the bank, they came to the place and they took all the serial numbers from all the equipment. You know what that means. That means terrible. This time you go to the head office and you step on some toes, and I drove the bank manager nuts. Because at 12 o'clock I phoned him, I says, I'm still up, you might as well be up. And at 4 o'clock in the morning I woke him up, I says, I'm up, you might as well be up too. I says, why don't you speak the truth, sir? And I says, there is less to remember. And I says, why don't you just tell the head office that yes, you promised. No, it didn't. And I pushed, then he had a heart attack. Served him just right. But in the meantime, you gotta do another bank. And that's not easy. But you gotta do what you gotta do. And then all of a sudden, guess what? The assistant manager opened the file and says, guess what he saw? This is the note. Don't go higher than $500,000. We came in at 425,000. Then we got the biggest grant in the Western, with the Western diversification. That was absolutely awesome, but the grants were used for the wrong reason. That was to reduce the loan to the bank. Because the bank was in a perfect position, but I wasn't. But you got to struggle through it. Dus then in 1986, 87, it really got pretty high up there. And I phoned my dad. My dad was supposed to be a millionaire, and I said, Dad, I can really use some help now. He said, son, if you get through this, you're a good man. That's what I did. And I banged away at it, and then all of a sudden in 1989, we started with the Spitz. And that just took off like a bullet. Birdseed, it is a commodity. Today it is 10 cents, tomorrow it's 15, the next day you don't know. You know, there is more people in the birdseed business, and now it's getting pretty damn crazy if you deal with the Canadian Tires and the superstores of this world, because they want you to commit to a price, and if they get a lower price, you got 10 days to match it or you're out. It is absolute a bunch of nonsense. But with Spitz, I didn't have that. You know, and why do you call them Spitz? Because everybody called them Spitz. And that's why we registered the name Spitz. And people say, why wasn't that registered before? Good question. Ask the great creator. He'll give you the answer. Don't ask him to fax it to you because he doesn't know your fax number. Other than that, he will get it to you. But that is an amazing thing how that went. Of course, every day, every time, we put one bag through the system, there was 30 cents in my pocket. I went to Emmy, I said, Emmy, I need more machines, get more efficiency, says. I said, I need more equipment. Yeah, I get more efficient. Dus we started with 3 bags a minute. Then we went to 7 bags a minute and we peed our pants. We thought, isn't that great? Then we went to 20 bags a minute and our pants were still wet from before. Dus later on we have 12 lines at 55 bags a minute and they just keep cranking it out and they can't keep up with the demand. Isn't that absolutely awesome how it all started? And it was all what we did is we gave people value for their money. And if you give people value for their money, they will respond tremendously. We had 3 different flavors because I didn't want to go with a Me Too product. The minute you come with a Me Too product, it is strictly price. I came with a resealable bag. Don't think that comes without hurdles. We went through 7 companies what makes plastic bags. And all of a sudden, the first 4, they said, are you nuts? Dus, you know, after 2 or 3, Emmy says, are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm all right. And I said, Ziploc did it. I should be able to make it. But of course, a minimum order. I don't know how many bags you go through. You don't know. Dus all of a sudden, we had to have a study, market study from the bank. Dus the market study said, I had to pay 6,000 bucks. I said to him, are you going to give me the money, the 6,000? I don't have the money. What do you want a market study for? We want to know. Okay, the market study says that we were going to sell 300,000 pounds that first year. Okay, that's what it says, that's what it says. But they didn't believe it. Oh, now we got another problem. I says, what do you think it's going to be? He says 150,000. Okay, stick to 150,000. I don't care. And all of a sudden, within 2 or 3 months, we were up to the 250,000. We want another study because you're going too fast. But I just said, you guys do the studying, I'm going to go for the action. And then, of course, I did another thing what you shouldn't do. But that's right. I'll tell you things you shouldn't do. And then you make up your mind what you're going to do. And because, you know, just like a Dutchman, they got wooden shoes, wooden hat, and they wouldn't listen. Yeah, and all of a sudden, I told the bank I had 30 distributors in Western Canada. And I gave them a tremendous margin. And of course, usually the distributors get around 20 points. I gave them 40. Because they would get everybody involved. They get the brother-in-law, the sister-in-law, and everybody was selling Spitz. And I couldn't make them fast enough. Of course, what I told to the bank was a complete different story. I says, we're into Safeway and we're into 7-Eleven. How did we get into 7-Eleven? Usually, some of you would know that to get into them chain stores, you gotta pay. But I said, I'm a Dutchman, I don't believe that, I'm a farmer, I'm stupid, I can't figure it out. I says, pay for what? I said, you just gotta pay for the bags. This is what I did. For 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I said to the distributors, I want you to go to a 7-Eleven store. I want you to buy a pop and ask for a bag of Spitz. And I says, if they don't have the bag of Spitz, you just leave the pop on the table, go to your truck, take a bag and say, this is what I want. And I says, do that for 2 weeks. And I says, I will pick up the tab. Because everybody is going to send me a bill for so many bags. And I says, Don, you will find the reaction. There's 3 weeks after that, I got a call from the buyer of 7-Eleven. Of course, I knew exactly what he was going to say, but I acted pretty stupid. And he said, how are you? I says, fantastic, how are you? He says, do you want me to go into competition with you? I says, I love competition. I said, when are you going to start? He says, I can start right now. He said, do you know how full my table is of Spitz? And I kind of chuckled. I says, keep chewing. And I said, maybe next year you're through the bags. He says, I got so many bags. He says, when can you be in my store? I says, I can have it delivered in your store within 2 weeks. He says, you'll never make that. Right across Canada? I says, I'll make it 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, he phoned me, you missed one store. I says, I know, today that store will be done. And we were into 7-Eleven, and we didn't pay the kickbacks. Some people, they say, Walmart, you can't raise your prices. I'll tell you out of experience, we raised the prices. And all of a sudden, this bugger, I should have fired him in Ontario, and Heather knows him. And the bugger had 2 gears up his ass, slow and very slow. Then all of a sudden he just went to the Walmart and he made the presentation. And these salespeople, they always want, yes, 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 and they want to kiss their ass, whatever you want to call it. They want to just be nicey-nicey. And of course, I said, guys, you got to be in that everybody gets the same price. And we didn't sell it for anybody less in the bigger stores. We just gave the bigger stores volume rebates. But the minute you do that, you go to the big stores and you give it to them cheaper, you're done. I seen it with Clodhoppers in Winnipeg. Clodhoppers had a product, good product, and they got it into the Walmart. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the last store you should go. Just let your stuff grow that they're going to ask for your product. The minute you put it in their stores, they have a tendency to lower the price and you're done. So we started that, and I said, you got to start at $2 and this and that. But all of a sudden, of course, he did it at $1.70, and mine is this, and mine is that, and mine is the slaughtering fees, and blah, blah, blah. And pretty soon you're at $1.40. I says, unacceptable. But then all of a sudden, you're doing $1.5 million worth of business in a year, just with the one chain called Walmart. And I wanted to go through the back door. I like the back door, because there is a special code what you can use for the Walmart stores, and the Walmart store manager can buy through that number. Because you got to find that out. We went through the back door. But all of a sudden, we did too much through the back door, and they phone you and they want you to go to the front door. I says, I don't like that front door. It's too expensive. But they want you to, they force you in there, and they say, we want to see you. And then all of a sudden, they started with a too low a price, and I said, the price got to be higher. There's the general manager at that time, he came with me, and I said, when is the price going to go up? Oh, you know, I said, just make an appointment. And I says, I'll be there. That's what I said. I have the girl's email, and I says, I will be there. I'm not going to wait longer than 20 minutes into your office. And I says, I would like to have cream and sugar in my coffee. And guess what? I got there. Everybody, like, it is all intimidation. You know, I met Mr. Sam Walton years ago. I had the pleasure of meeting him. And it is amazing how they do that. It is all, they have very uncomfortable chairs into the buying office. And you're sitting up against the next guy, and you can't put your knees straight because they want you to be very uncomfortable. Because that means they can intimidate you a little bit, and they intimidate you some more, and then you lower the price a little bit more. But I came in there, and the girl says, how would you like your coffee? You must have seen some of these salespeople what are in there. And I said, no, I'll be all right. And I says, I would like cream and sugar, and that will be great. And I says, I would like to have a cup, please. And I says, don't give me a paper cup. And just thank you very much. And oh, you can take a seat now. I said, I'll be all right. And he came out of his office, and of course, and the general manager was sitting beside me. And of course, I look at the buyer, and I says, sir, we're coming here to get a price increase. When is it going to take effect? I could see in his eyes that he never heard of a price increase. Not from us. Because you kind of, in your back of your mind, you say, this guy got to get fired because he lied to me. And you lie once, you lie twice. Tell the truth. It's less to remember. It might hurt, but it heals. Just do it. And all of a sudden they said, sir, we got to have a price increase. If you don't do it, I'll do it for you. At Walmart, we don't increase the price, we decrease the price. I says, I'm sorry, sir. Have a nice day. I closed my book, and I was going to leave. Oh, he says, let me get my manager. I said, okay, good. Get your manager. Because the manager came, and all of a sudden I was asking for 20 cents, and he says 15%. And I can't remember exactly, or he gave me 8. And I told him, now then, we'll leave it till you get me the other 7, or that I gave 7 and I'll wait for the other 8. I don't know exactly. I said, let me know when the other 8, and I says, within 2 weeks, nobody will deliver to the Walmart anymore. That has quite an effect. If you send the distributors, and you say, no more Walmart stores. If you deliver to one Walmart store, after 2 weeks, you're fired. And them distributors were making good money. There's all of a sudden nobody delivered, and all of a sudden you get the call from this manager and that manager. And all of a sudden, apparently Spitz was out of business. That is what the buyer said. But the buggers, what they do everything by phone, you see. That you can't you can't have no proof. That you have never proved what the buggers ever said. But it is all as a matter of and of course, I look at the manufacturing point of view, and I want to have the highest price, and they wanted to have it on the selling price. Remember, when them stores, they buy something for $1 and they sell it for $2, we say they make 100%, right? You know what they say? We sell it for 2 and we buy it for 1, we make 50. Either way, you're right. It all depends how you look at it. Yes. And but it is amazing how that went, and now, of course, the PepsiCo Federation, they came to us, and Frito-Lay, and of course, when do you sell your business? You sell your business when you're healthy, when the business is good, and when there is still room for improvement. Most people, they wait till they're unhealthy. Because I said to him, and I missed it by 6 months, Emmy, some of you know that I lost Emmy a year and a half ago, and halfway the negotiations, she started to have some issues with her health. And that is terrible, I know that, because without my lovely wife Emmy, I wouldn't have been where I am today. But you know, that is all part of life, and we have to accept it, deal with it, and move on. And that is the way she wanted it. And we had a tremendous run at it. And in 2004, I still remember, we were debt-free, we had money in the bank, and we had an absolute disaster in the sunflower industry. 96% of the sunflowers, we were rejected, and because of quality reasons. And I always have a saying in my desk, and the first saying was, if I become a detriment to the company, I gotta go. That's the first one. The second one, if the seeds are not good enough for me to spit, they're not good enough for my customers. Because you've got to buy the best product. Then I said to Emmy, I got 3 options in front of me. Option 1 is close the business for 1 year. I says, it is an absolute disaster. And I says, option 2 is take the best sunflower seeds we can get out of this product and make it go. Option 3, I says, buy the sunflower seeds from last year in the United States, Argentina and China. There's still room. And I says, I can do that. But I says, I need $7 million. We had $2 million in the bank, and we were debt free. But can you imagine what Emmy and I had to go through when we were that far in debt, and the banks, they shake things up a little bit. And all of a sudden, she said, what do you think? I says, I'm 125% sure that number 3 is the one to go with. But I said, Mom, you got a few with it. She says, let's do it. So I phoned the bank. I says, I'm putting the plant in security, and Emmy and I, we're going to sign our personal guarantees. And please let me know fast, because there is other banks that were really interested in the business. 20 minutes later, the Treasury banks phoned us back, and they said, this is a done deal. Everything is nice. Now you have to sign. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a terrible day when we got into the bank, and all of a sudden I felt a real funny gut feeling going through you. And I looked at Emmy and I says, do you feel what I feel? She says, I don't know what you feel, but I feel terrible. I said, Mom, I know we're making the wrong choice. She says, do you know what this signature means? I said, Mom, trust me. She says, and she did, and it, you know, we are honored. And then of course the competition in Tasty Seeds in Winnipeg did exactly number 2 option. They revamped their operation, came with a new bag, was going to reintroduce the sunflower seeds, and that time I let my distributors know that I left a gap. They could have went in there, they missed the gap, because they put junk in the bag, and I had them, and a year later we bought them. Isn't that something? That all of a sudden the company was valued at 1.2 million the year before, Tasty Seed in Winnipeg, and we bought them for 300,000 a year and a half later. It can happen fast. If you make the wrong choices, it can happen very fast. Then all of a sudden, you know, we grew tremendously. We had growth of 300%. Don't tell your banker that you're growing more than 25. They shake in their boots with 25. But 300, that is, you know, we had to tell them a bunch of bullshit every time. And every time, do you got things under control? We got things under control. The money came in, don't worry about this. And then all of a sudden, you know, you got to put in the financial statements, and you delay that, and you delay that, and you delay that. Till all of a sudden they say your operating line of credit is 0 if you don't send the financial statements. Now then you're hooked anyway. Dus I said, oh, I will send it. Dus I drove up to the bank and I just kind of slipped that underneath the door. And I says, I put some, if there is any questions, just let me know. Now that didn't take him very long. 5 minutes, he said, get your ass in this bank right now. Boy, he was steaming mad, but I was kind of smiling and said, shit, what are you worried about? And I said, the money is coming, and he said, do you know what you did? I said, yeah, a little bit. He says, you don't touch money. He said, you grew over 300%. I said, yeah, kind of know. He says, don't you do that anymore. I said, you know, I'm really trying to get it under control. Right now we're at 22 or 24%. He says, keep it there. I said, yeah, I'll do my best. Of course, that year we grew 400%. But then you pay the buggers off and you just smile and you just say, be done with it. But it is amazing how that goes, but you got to keep your mind with it. We had a tremendous run with the farmers, and of course, whenever you're going to sell, and you sell to a Fortune 500 company, of course, Emmy and I, we never bought a company, we never sold a company. It is your baby. We ran it for 25 years. And all of a sudden they came to the door, they wanted to have dinner with us. And we had dinner, and of course they say, would you be interested in selling to us? And we said, not really, come back in 2 years. And he said, because we were number 1 in Canada, we were, in 5 years, we climbed from number 54 position in the United States to a number 3. And we were going to have, in 2 years, we were going to get closer to the number 2. And we kind of did it in the United States under the radar. Don't get too far above the radar, then all of a sudden things start to shake, and then all of a sudden, them Yankees, they don't like a little competition once in a while. But they got it from the Canadian guy, and we did it in, we did it an orthodox way, they say, and but we had an amazing run at it. And then all of a sudden, of course that is all hindsight. My hindsight is so damn good, makes me nervous, you see. But your foresight, and then I said to Frito-Lay, no, just come back in 2 years. Because I wanted to get to that number 2 position, closer to the number 2 position. He said, Tom, if I go to the head office, and he says, I can get you a 2-year extension, would you listen to me? He says, I always listen to a good deal. And all of a sudden he came, and he said, Tom, they want to have a run at it. There's then Emmy and I, we sat down and we say, how are we going to do this? We listened to 2 experts, they so-called buy and sell companies, And I said to Emmy, I said, Mom, I always call her Mom, I said, Mom, we build it from nothing to something. And I said, why don't we just do the whole thing? And I said, we are very capable. I said, we might be Dutch, but we're not entirely nuts. We have a very good general manager. Miles came from Frito-Lay, and he worked for Frito-Lay in Calgary. He was the vice president of Frito-Lay, and just I said to him if he could be coming of the company. And we had an awesome run at it. Now we did it. We had Emmy, myself, and Miles, and we had 2 lawyers and 2 accountants. The PepsiCo side is a little different. 15 lawyers and 10 accountants. And they come out of Dallas, New York, Toronto, and Calgary. That is an amazing thing to stand up to that. And then all of a sudden, I'll tell you what the first phone call was all about, and the rest is all a little bit of history. It is an amazing, like I feel, because I always said, if Frito-Lay or PepsiCo's come to the table, we got to look at it, because then the Spitz name is forever. And that's what you kind of want to do. You wanted to keep it going and go with that forever. They're running an awesome ship. Okay, it is the way they do things, what they know about marketing, it just floors you. It is absolutely amazing. But that's why they're a $65 billion company. Like, and sometimes they say, people, oh yeah, but they did this wrong and that is wrong. Yeah, a lot of things wrong, but 65 billion and a good profit, my God, there is something right in the system too, you see. You got to look at that. And it is an amazing how they work that. And, and then, of course, they bought the plant, and they have 43 plants in North America. That was the only plant that had a house on it. We thought it was good, and but it really hurted Emmy when she see that they cut up. But I said, Mom, they bought it, they paid for it, move on. And then all of a sudden, they wanted me to stay there. And of course, at one time, I was the lowest paid in the company. I went down to $400 a month. Later on, I was the highest paid, and I earned it. It was over $1 million or something. Not a month, but a year. And now, later on, I became a part of PepsiCo, and I'm the lowest one again. $1 a year. The rest I got to earn. But it was an amazing run. They run it different. And the first meeting, we have all these conference calls, and these people, they ask, and can we ask a question? Because they said right away, it takes around from 12 to 18 months to purchase your company. And we wanted to do certain things, especially me. Heather is down here, there's a couple of my employees down here, and they were part of the team. And of course, I push and I shove, because you got to growth. You got to have growth. You can't stand still. Standing still is going backwards. And some people, they say you shouldn't have any debt. Now, young without debt is old without goods. Because you got to have a certain amount of debt and just go for it. And we surrounded ourselves with some awesome people. And, we had a fire in 2008 or something. And I really leaned on the people. I always been very honorable to all the people I work with. Because I stayed with the same freight company, and I stayed with the same mechanical companies, the electrical companies. I always stayed with them, and they, you know, L. Sheets from Sheets Grain, he was there. And you know, when you don't nickel and dime them people to death, they just go to town for you. And then all of a sudden we had that fire, and of course, my God, that was right in the middle of July. My God, what a mess you got. But then all of a sudden, Safeway, they say, Mr. Droog, I heard you're out of business. No, I said, we're just having a little bit of a setback. But I says, I will be delivering in 2 weeks. And he says, how in the world are you going to pull this off in 2 weeks? I says, I'm not going to do it. The people will. 2 weeks later, we were running again. But we were running. We had an awesome run at it. And we were very proud to be the Albertans. I'm very honored to be part of that, you know, that, like what Peter Law, he did. He had a vision. And later on, we had a couple of other premiers. Ralph Klein was very good. I was a heavy supporter of Ed Stelmark. That was a terrible disappointment. Ed was too good. He was not tough enough. And we had dinner with him and his wife. And I said, Ed, I don't think you can handle that. You got to be tough. And I said, I don't think you can do that. He said, Tom, I'm from the Ukraine. I can be tough. But he never became tough. And that is just some challenges. There's some of them, they have the foresight. There is going to be a tremendous opportunity in agriculture. Wait till the wheat board kind of just finally open the door and let us slip out of there and let us do what has to be done. Some of you would love to stay to the wheat board. Great. Good. But give us the option, please. Just if you want to market your own product, you want to start a pasture plan, you want to do this, go for it. You can have an awesome run at it. Give people value for the money and they will respond tremendously. We did it. We had an awesome run at it. We had a fantastic run at it. And I'll tell you one of the comments we had from Frito-Lay. There's two comments I'll tell you. The one was all of a sudden this Yahoo from New York. Of course, he is at $1,000 an hour, I'm sure. And all of a sudden, he said, can I ask the question? I said, sure. How do you get your sunflowers? I said, we have around 50 to 55 farmers. Farmers. All of a sudden, I heard over the phone, farmers. Who are these people? And did we do a credit check on them? I says, Mr. Chairman, I become unglued, of course. And Emmy is just holding my hand and holding this and holding that. The lawyers were sitting beside me. It went like this. And I said, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what you paid the joker, but $25 an hour is way too much already. He doesn't know what a farmer is. Send him back to school. This is unacceptable. I will not sit here and ask for some stupid questions like that by somebody out of New York. All of a sudden, everything was quiet. Emmy thought I was done. The lawyers thought it was a done deal. Chairman got on the board, I got on the phone, everybody off the phone except Tom Droog. Oh, now I thought I was going to get it, but I'll handle that. There's everybody, it's amazing how they go. Dallas off the line, New York off the line except the chairman, Toronto off the line, Calgary off the line, Dwinton, everybody is off the line except Tom. Chairman comes, he says, Mr. Droog, first of all, we don't use the word bullshit. That is not in our vocabulary. I said, I'm very sorry, but it had to happen. And I said, you're 100% right. This guy will not ask another question anymore. He says, this conference never took place. He says, we'll see you in 5 minutes. If you had any other issue, this is my cell number. Thank you very much. And he said, by the way, you're doing fantastic. I said, thank you. Just 5 minutes later, we were back on. Dallas on, New York on, Toronto on, Calgary on. It was like a Christmas light. And all of a sudden, you know, the questions just changed. It was kind of neat how that all went. And then the other thing, what we negotiated in the deal, there was something, Dallas, New York, in Dallas, they have a hangar. And mergers and acquisitions, if they want to buy your company, they come and pick you up with the plane, the private jet. They come and they pull you in the hangar. There's nobody knows who is in the plane, except a couple of secretaries. But nobody else would know, nobody would know who is in it. It's kind of amazing. And I read about that, and I says, that has to be in the deal, because I want to have that experience. And they did. But it was a little little different because we did the whole deal in Dwinton in our house because of Emmy's health. So the whole deal was done down there. And but after, you know, when Emmy went for some treatment in LA, and they picked us up with the Learjet, and you know, Emmy and I just that was quite something. Here, 2 Dutch people, we came. I had $125, and you know, and Emmy had a little less when we came, because we had just about virtually nothing. And all of a sudden, they picked you up in the Learjet, they put the red carpet, and there's 2 pilots, and they take you up. Because we were 132,000 square feet up, and I just cried. I said, isn't this something? I said, Mom, look what we did. Isn't that something? And all of a sudden, the doors went open on the pilot, and all of a sudden, they see 2 people crying. They said, oh, what's the matter? And they thought Emmy's health. I said, no, just emotions, just let them go. Yeah, just emotions. And it was an amazing run. Then we came to Dallas and we had dinner, and you know, everybody was down there. And they told me 3 things, and it was absolutely remarkable how they said it. First of all, Spitz fitted better in the organization than they thought. It was more profitable than they thought. But last but not least, there was no skeletons in the closet. We had a good company. And if you got a good company, you can demand a special price. They came to us, we had an awesome run at it, we had an awesome thing, and I thank you very much for listening to the story. If you want to go there, even I need an appointment to go into the plant now, but that is rather here nor there. It is an awesome company, we bought it, we had an awesome run at it, and it is because of the freedom we had in Alberta. And I thank you all. Thank you very much.